All right, this is a little short video for my introductory CND students. So you've never taken CND before, you've never looked at labs like this before. And what happens in each one of these labs, and by the way, yeah, you're going to kick yourself when you realize the answer to this question. And I've dealt with this many times in many different labs from CEH to CND. So don't be surprised. Anyway, if you look at this, Module 2, Footprinting and Reconnaissance, it refers to collecting information from the enemy, talks about performing a security assessment, talks about, it says in this scenario, you work as an ethical hacker with a large organization. Now, this is just something that you want to put into your imagination. Imagine that you have a job with some organization and you're working on this. So realize this does not refer to a specific organization. It's asking you to imagine that you have a job doing this kind of work. And so in your organization is alarmed at this news stories are coming out. There are new attack vectors. And so in this organization, imagine some people in a conference room that have ties on and, you know, they're managers. And so you've been asked by them to do a proactive security assessment. All right. They want good ROE, rules of engagements. One of the things that when you're doing pen testing, when you're doing these things where you are working to poke holes in security, it tells you right here that the rules of engagement are the do's and don'ts of the assessment. For instance, they may say you can look at all of the subnets, all of the little corners of this network, except for we don't want you to deal with these. Or they may say, don't look at our web servers and our database servers. Just look at the rest of the network. Or they may say, don't look at the rest of the network. Just look at the web servers and the database servers. Or they may say, these are just the rules that you have to abide by. And by the way, if you're an independent contractor and you don't abide by the rules of engagement, you can end up in jail, literally. So you have to be very careful. So you methodically begin the footprinting process and get the blueprint of the security of the organization. So all this is a scenario. This is not something that you are specifically going to do. It's something that you are to think about, to imagine as if you are there in a meeting, getting instruction from upper management, preparing to scan this organization and find out information about it, doing your footprinting and reconnaissance. So that's what that's all about. So this section tells you some of the things that you need to do and that you're going to end up using tools and techniques to do in this lab, including organizing the information, getting information about the network, getting information about the operating systems, and so on. And then footprinting the network, both passively and actively, and going through and doing specific tasks to make all of that happen. And then I get a lot of people saying, okay, so how am I going to do all that? What's going on? Here is the deal. And this is where you're going to kick yourself. See my mouse right here? Move it down here to the bottom right-hand corner and click this button. And this is where you actually go into lab 1, read the scenario and the objectives. And this is where you finally get your tasks. Right, so it says here we're going to consider EC Council as the target organization. I'm not going to go through all this stuff. You need to read that yourself. All right, and then over here it says to, by default, Windows 10. See that right there, Windows 10, where my mouse is moving, Windows 10. Windows 10 is the machine selected. We click on Control-Alt-Delete. We have step-by-step instructions. It tells you other ways you can do it. It says by default, admin is selected. And what we're going to do now is we're going to paste in the password. These labs are so cool. They give you the step-by-step instructions. It logs you in to the operating system, giving you alternative ways of doing that. And it tells you anything you see in gray here and anything you see in red, you need to pay special attention to that. because those are hyper important. And so, for instance, there's a network screen that appears right here. And it says, do you want to allow your PC to be discoverable? Yes, I do. Absolument. S'il vous plaît. And then it tells you step number 3, that you are to launch the Mozilla Firefox browser, which is right here. And we launch that, and then we're supposed to go to a little known website that nobody has ever heard of called Google.com. And then it keeps you going through all of these steps. So that is the secret. It's that button right down there. Once you go through all these steps, step number 6, 9, go all the way down to the bottom, and then go to task 2, gather information for there, and then put a check in each box as you complete each one, and then go to where was that, task 4, and finally you finish task 7. Boom, you hit that check in that box. Guess what you do next? You hit the button on the right and go to the next lab. And you'll have tasks in each lab until you get to the last set of tasks, which is way over here. Check it out. Look at that. Man, lab 9. One other thing I want to say is that sometimes you may not know whether you did it right or not. See these little graphics? They are not just there for you to squint your eyes. Well, what does that say? Click on it. If you click on it, it'll open up a screen to show you how it should look if you did it correctly. So you can always go back and check to make sure you did it correctly. Isn't that cool? And then when you get to the very end, after doing all of that, you did all the way, oh man, look at that. We have a lot. Let me scroll all the way to the bottom. Ready? All the way to the bottom. The last lab, the last exercise, the last task, done. Then you click end, and then you can click yes, end my lab, and then you can move on to the next one. All right, so that's just an introduction to doing the labs for my students who have never done this before. Have fun. Be bold.